franchises. Under the same rules, the committee shall be composed of 13 members. The following senators were duly elected as members of the committee during the Senate plenary session last August 2, 2022. As Vice Chairperson, we have Senator Joseph Victor Ejercito, Senator Francis Tol Tolentino, Senator Jinggoy Ejercito Estrada, Senator Ramon Bong Revilla Jr. As members, we have Senator Marian Lourdes Nancy Binay, Senator
Marian Lourdes Nancy Binay, Senator.
The following are the ex officio members. Majority Leader Senator Joel Villanueva, Minority Leader Senator Aquilino Coco Pimentel III, and the Senate President Pro Tem Senator Loren Legarda. The Committee on Public Services is likewise adopting and subscribing to the pertinent provisions of the Rules of the Senate and the Rules of Procedure governing inquiries in aid of legislation. These rules shall guide the committee in its operation and the conduct of meetings, hearings, and investigations. Is there any objection?
None, Madam Chair. And I would actually move, but then I would second na lang, Madam Chair.
Okay, hearing none, the motion for the adoption of rules is hereby approved and granted. Sigurado akong lahat tayo ay nakatanggap na ng text mula sa numerong hindi natin kilala. May pasa-load scheme na kunwari ay nagkamaling sa numero mo na ipadalang load at ipapasole sa'yo. O di kaya ay may nagpapanggap na kamag-anak o kilalang OFW na hihingi ng pang-load sa kanilang number. May nanalo na rin ng raffle, pero kailangan mag-send ng load para maklaim ang premyo. Noon, load lang ang habol ng mga text scammers. But today, as transactions get digital, scammers are adapting, getting more creative and personal in their ways. Through seemingly harmless links, they would try to steal your data, introduce malware, or scam you out of your money. Ika nga, one click is all it takes. Recently, our inboxes were bombarded with spam messages from different unknown numbers offering cash or a job, at syempre, ang walang kamatayang nanalo ka daw ng raffle. In a span of 3 days alone, Smart was able to block 23 million of these kinds of texts. 3 days, 23 million. Globe, on the other hand, was able to block more than 784 spam and scam messages in a span of almost 6 months. This is a staggering number of messages that prey upon the vulnerable, like those who are unemployed, in need of money, or are just unfamiliar with these schemes. And it only gets worse. As discussed during Senator Estrada's privileged speech, yung iba nga nakaka-receive ng text na may pangalan nila. At times, full name pa nila ang ginagamit. Scamming is getting more personalized and targeted. This is a clear breach of data, and we have to get to the bottom of this. But this is not the only problem we face with regard to our telecommunication system. Phones, for example, are frequently used in aid of terrorism as detonation devices for bombs. Several successful and attempted bombings in 2022, such as those that targeted provincial bosses in Maguindanao in April and Coronadal City in May, were found to have been detonated through mobile phones. Nandiyan din ang ating walang katapusang problema sa fake news, trolls, at cyberbullying. And of course, we have other forms of fraud such as voice phishing or phishing, among others. This is where the importance of instituting a registration system that comes in, especially for SIM cards. Hindi lingid sa ating kaalaman that the proposal for the mandatory SIM card registration had been excessively discussed during the previous Congress. We were able to produce a bill that passed through the rigors of lawmaking procedure but was unfortunately vetoed. But scams like this, among other cybersecurity and telecommunications issues in the country, highlight the need to institutionalize a protection mechanism for millions of mobile phone users in the country. Kaya naman hindi namin muli binubuksan ang pinto kaya muli namin binubuksan ang pinto para sa panukalang ito. For today's hearing, we are going to discuss the 6 Senate bills that propose a mandatory registration of SIM cards in the Philippines. We shall discuss these side by side with 2 resolutions seeking the investigation of the rising number of tech scams in the country. We also want to hear from the relevant agencies on what has been done to solve this. May nagawa na ba ang National Telecommunications Commission, ang National Privacy Commission, at iba pang ahensya tungkol sa mga database leaks tulad nito? May naparusahan na ba? Gawa kaya ito ng isang global syndicate? Paano at saan nila nakuha ang mga personal na impormasyon tulad ng pangalan at numero? At ano ang proseso para sa mga gustong magreklamo? Sa mga telcos naman, lumalabas na ang pangalan ng mga subscribers nyo. So how could there not be a possible breach in your database? Online platforms like Viber and GCash, where mobile numbers are used, also have a lot of explaining to do, as there are reports that the registered names on these platforms are exactly what are contained in these spam texts. Gusto din natin mapakinggan ang saloobin ng ating mga consumers at stakeholders na siyang napeperwisyo at nadidismaya sa patuloy na paglaganap ng mga text at malicious information. In fact, I just received a letter from a concerned citizen who gave a very detailed narration on how he received a text scam with his full name in it, despite having followed a very strict privacy regimen. And I will detail this to you later on. Further, the complainant sought redress only to be given the runaround by the agencies. The NTC Consumer Complaints Division said that, ito, and I'll quote it, mali pa yung grammar, it do not have the technical know-how, imbis na it does not have the technical know-how, forensic technical exam to determine the source of the privacy breach, and if device is compromised. The National Privacy Commission told him that while it may have the technical know-how to check, meron pala ang National Privacy Commission, to check whether this device was compromised or not, they would not personally confirm or deny this, and that ultimately the only person who can truly identify who was behind the privacy breach was him, the complainant. Paano nangyari yan? Ikaw na ngayon nag-complain dahil di mo kilala kung sino yung nanloko sa'yo. Ikaw pang responsable na malaman kung sino sila. Eh kung hindi nga kaya ng NTC, yung ordinaryong may-ari ba ng cellphone na yun, kaya? Lastly, the NBI NCR Cybercrime Division said that since no crime had been committed, this is not under their jurisdiction. Imagine, ang 3 ahensya ng gobyerno, pinagpasapasahan ang reklamo. Platforms like Viber and GCash, where mobile numbers are used, also have a lot of explaining to do, as there are reports that the registered names on these platforms are exactly what are contained in these text scams. Gusto din natin mapakinggan ang saloobin ng ating mga consumers at stakeholders na siyang napeperwisyo at nadidismaya sa patuloy na paglaganap ng mga scam texts at malicious information. In fact, I just received a letter from a concerned citizen who gave a very detailed narration. The complainant now comes to this committee. The closing salvo of his letter reads, "As you can see, this has been a very cumbersome and onerous ordeal for me. This is a very personal issue for me, as I have been extremely careful about my digital footprint, and that is the only reason why I'm still coordinating with the government agencies above, to ensure that action is taken and the investigation comes to fruition. I can only imagine how another private citizen with the same experience as mine will respond to the back and forth of the government agencies supposedly managing these issues and their seeming lack of urgency, creativity, and foresight to solve said issues. It is my utmost hope that your committee will be able to pass Senate Bill 99 and ultimately affect change in the NPC, NPC, and NBI so that they more comprehensively deal with issues relating to privacy breaches and tech scams. I want this letter, with its personal details blacked out, to protect further identity fraud, to be inserted into the record because it really begs the question, kung ang isang tao na sobrang maingat at maagap ay napapadalan pa rin ng personal scam messages, paano na ang milyong-milyong iba pa na nagkakalat ang digital footprint? So nag-iingat na nga. So baka yung mismong mga providers nila ang nagbibigay ng impormasyon nila. From all these parties, we will seek guidance on how we can further strengthen the existing SIM card registration proposal. This measure should come from the collective wisdom of everyone. I would also like to manifest that the position papers previously submitted to the committee during the 18th Congress be adopted and form part of the report that this committee will submit. Sa harap ng malikhain at makabagong panlilinlang sa makabagong panahon, hindi na totoo na walang biktima kung walang magpapabiktima. The burden should not be on the consumers to avoid clicking suspicious links or to avoid falling for scams. And the solution should not be just to block the unknown number. The onus should also be with the telecom companies to ensure privacy consumer data and on the government to plug the gaps and face fully the dangers in the current telecom system. It is my hope that we conclude the discussion on this matter. We are in unison of supporting to build a safer and more secured mobile use and cyberspace in the country. Before I yield the floor to my fellow senators who are joining us today, may I request the committee secretary to read out the names of the resource persons who are present, but I would like to acknowledge the physical presence of Vice Chair J.V. Ejercito, Senator Majority Leader Joel Villanueva, and Senator Mark Villar. Secretary, please, do we have any senators online present?
We have Senator Nancy Binay, Madam Chair.
Senator Nancy Binay is also recognized. And for the rest, Secretary, for the ones present here today, our resource persons, please identify yourself and your designation, just that. And then for the ones online, we will do so after the opening statement of Senator Joel. And do we have from you, Vice Chair JV, do you have an opening? Okay, we will do the openings of the senators because they had another urgent meeting happening today. So go ahead, Secretariat, please. Let's start with you, sir, from the NBI.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. I am Head Agent Palmer Malyari and the current head of the Cyber Investigation and Assessment Center of the NBI.
Good afternoon po. Supervising Agent Dennis Sian, Chief Anti-Fraud Division, NBI po.
I'm Alex Ramos, Executive Director, Cybercrime Investigation Center, the ICT.
Cybercrime Investigation. Under what government agency is that?
The ICT, ma'am.
The ICT.
Ivan John Huy, the ICT po.
Welcome, Mr. Secretary Uy.
Thank you, ma'am.
Leandro Aguirre, Deputy Privacy Commissioner, National Privacy Commission.
Good afternoon po, Madam Chair, everyone, all senators present. Attorney Cordoba po, Gamaliel Cordoba from the MPs.
Yan yung mga mainstay natin dito. Suke.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Your Honors, Edgardo Capares po.
Pinagtatrabaho ka pa rin ni Attorney Cordova. Okay.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Attorney Jane Hazel Marie S. Garcia Dobler from the Department of Justice, State Council.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Fellow public servant in the government, I am Police Brigadier General Joel Doria, the Acting Director of the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group.
Good afternoon. I am Paolo Martin Santos, Chief Network Transformation Officer of Converge.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and fellow persons as well as senators. I'm Ariel Tubayan, head of the Policy Division of Globe Telecom.
Madam Chair, dear Senators, good afternoon. Attorney Kenneth Reganion, Senior Manager for Regulatory Affairs, Smart Communications.
Okay, welcome. Thank you for our guests for taking the time to be here today. Now, the Chair recognizes Senator Joel Villanueva. This is in order of arrival.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Marami pong salamat. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat, sa aking kasamahan sa Senado. Una sa ating chairperson, Senator Grace po, my distinguished colleagues. My two deputy majority leaders are here. Deputy Majority Leader J.V. Ejercito and Mark Villar. Thank you. And Senator Nancy. Mapagpalang hapon po sa ating lahat, sa ating mga guests, sa ating mga mainstay, Madam Chair. Sila Commissioner Cordova, my good friend, Attorney John Uy, and the rest. Mapagpalang hapon po sa inyong lahat. First of all, Madam Chair, I would like to associate myself, and I was about to second your motion, including the letter and the records from the last Congress be included in today's deliberation, considering the importance of this very important topic. Madam Chair, again, I'd like to commend the chairperson of this committee, our esteemed colleague, our amazing Grace, Senator Grace po. I am confident that with her at the helm of this committee, significant measures will be passed to help improve our country's public services. I'm sure everyone, just like this representation, has received unsolicited text scams or spam messages. I myself, for instance, have received at least 8 to 10 spam messages every single day. And unfortunately, yung binabanggit nga ni Senator Grace kanina, ang ating chairperson, hindi lang pangalan ko. Minsan sasabihin pa yung kapatid mo na mayor ng Bukawi. Can you imagine? Ganun na kalala yung information na nakukuha nila sa atin. And I'm sure maraming nakaka-relate sa ating mga kababayan na nakikinig ngayon sa atin. Maraming katanungan and a lot of questions were raised by our good chair. And dadagdagan ko lang, yung bottom line talaga is, where these data breaches come from? Did the data breach come from e-wallets, messaging apps, social media sites, COVID-19 contact tracing apps and lists, booking websites for online gambling? Nakakalungkot, kanina binanggit ni Madam Chair na hindi totoo yung walang maloloko kung walang magpapaloko. Imagine, nasa 3 million ang unemployment natin. Underemployment is about 7 million. Sasabihin ng text scammer, yung 5 piso mo, tatamang 5 milyon. Sinong hindi may engganyo? Again, no, sa suking sari-sari store ba ito? Nakukuha doon sa nagbebenta ng cellphone load? At this point, wherever we leave, our contact information is a potential source of the data breach. What is clear is that the information is used by cyber criminals in luring their unsuspecting victims to access their personal data and obtain their money. And I will quote the ICT, in 2019 National ICT Household Survey, sabi ho dito, 15.9 million Filipinos reported having been victims of SMS fraud or text scams. Madam Chair, 15.9 million na yung nag-report. Hindi pa ako kasama dito, hindi nag-report. Ang pinakamalaki yung sa Region 3, my home region, reporting the highest number at 3.48 million. Particularly upsetting are the recruitment scams that feed on the desperation of unemployed Filipinos who part with their personal information and money in order to land a non-existent job. Wala ka na nga trabaho, may scam ka pa, pambihira. Hindi na nga natin hindi na tayo makalikha ng trabaho, hindi pa natin maprotektahan yung walang trabaho, my goodness. I'm just a little upset, and our good chair made mention a while ago what we are doing, because I read the report, for instance, Madam Chair, in Singapore when they came up with the response of Anti-Scam Center. And this ASC is described as the nerve center for investigating scams, disrupting scammers' operations, and mitigating victims' losses. Going on its fourth year na po, Madam Chair, it continues to fulfill its role in Singapore's primary anti-scam agency. It's headed by Singapore Police Force and follows a multi-pronged approach to cybercrime, including, and I would just mention, no, baka kasi matuto tayo sa ibang bansa, enforcement, freezes bank accounts, intercepts money, engagement, partnership with banks for tracing and retrieval of funds, engineering, new technologies to detect and analyze scam trends, education, trains bank officers, inform public from scams. Right now, Madam Chair, more than $200 million has been recovered by the Anti-Scam Center, with the police now targeting scammers even before people realize they have fallen prey and make a report. So may proactive response sila. I'm just sharing this because perhaps we can learn from other countries. According to NTC, binanggit nyo kanina, Madam Chair, nag-block na yung Globe ng 784 million. Ang Smart, nag-block ng 23 million phishing messages in just 3 days. Again, yung Globe deactivated 14,058 scam-linked numbers and blacklisted 8,973 numbers. But again, you compare it with the 15.9 million na nagrereklamo na, Madam Chair, parang medyo malayo pa din doon. So, hindi ko patatagalin itong deliberation natin. I'm sure this is very important. And for this purpose, I just wanted to put on record, Madam Chair, that this representation filed Senate Bill number 366, which will require prior consent of subscribers before any advertisement or promotional messages are sent to them. This bill also mandates mobile network providers to provide user-friendly reporting mechanisms for their subscribers. In America, and I mentioned this on the floor when Senator Jinggoy Estrada delivered his privileged speech, in America, meron sila yung US Federal Trade Commission, nag-allow sila ng 4-digit number, 7726, o yung anti-spam nila, no? And ipo-forward lang nila yung message doon. Nakaka-respond po kaagad sila. I'm just sharing this kasi we can learn from these countries. Madam Chair, it is imperative that the interests of our telephone and mobile subscribers are protected and upheld in line with the policy of the state to protect the fundamental right to privacy of communication while ensuring free flow of information. Marami po tayong pwedeng magawa, and we laud again the leadership of our chairperson, Senator Grace Poe, for spearheading today's discussion. We believe that we must be proactive in providing policy guidance and lasting and not merely palliative solutions to finally put an end to this persistent and pernicious problem. Sobra na po ang scam, sobra na ang spam, itigil na ang scam. So maraming salamat po, Madam Chairperson, and may God bless us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Joel, for that very constructive and quite interesting information. It offers some sort of a solution for us to look forward to if we're only a little bit proactive and serious about mitigating this issue. I would like to acknowledge the presence of the Vice Chair also of the Committee on Public Services, Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Thank you for your presence, sir. And now, Senator Mark Villar is recognized for his opening statement.
Yes, thank you, and magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Madam Chairperson, Senator Grace Poe, and I'd like to also greet my colleagues who are here. Majority Floor Leader Joel Villanueva, and of course, Senator Jinggoy Estrada. Good day to you all, and all the Senate staff here who made this hearing possible. It is high time to provide protection to the people from these unscrupulous individuals who are taking advantage of modern technology in order to proliferate their fraudulent schemes. Ako nga halos araw-araw po may nare-receive po akong mga solicitations sa text. At halatang-halata po scam yung mga text na nare-receive ko. Nakakalungkot lang. And it's sad that deceitful minds continue to evolve and as the technology advances forward. We must act now so that this anonymity enjoyed by these minds, these criminal minds, and user shields may be put aside. In relation to scams, I filed Senate Bill number 225, an act further protecting the integrity of electronic transactions, defining for the purpose of crime of internet and telecommunications phishing, providing penalties thereof. These acts are perpetrated to acquire sensitive information by masquerading as a trustworthy entity in an electronic communication. Phishing targets emails, telephone, or text messages by someone posing as a legitimate institution to lure individuals into providing sensitive data. These types of scams are also becoming rampant. To continue, I am also for the thorough discussion of the SIM card registration measure in order that in protecting the rights of our citizens, we also make sure that certain constitutional rights will not be encroached upon. So thank you, and I look forward to having a fruitful and productive hearing today.
Thank you, Senator Villar. Secretariat, can you please identify those resource persons present online?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Your Honors. For today's organizational meeting and public hearing, the following resource persons are virtually present. From the Department of Information and Communications Technology, we have Director for Finance, Mr. Chad Moscoso, and for Policy and Legal Affairs, Yusek Jose Vicente Salazar. From the Department of Trade and Industry, we have Director Marcus Valdez II. For the Department of Justice, joining us virtually is Attorney Gerald Sosa from the Cybercrime Office. From the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, virtually present are Director Melchor Labasan of the Technology Risk and Innovation Supervision Department and Attorney Charina De Vera Yap of the Consumer Protection and Market Conduct Office. From Smart Communications, we have Vice President and Head of Regulatory Affairs, Attorney Roy Tibay. Also joining us virtually for PLDT, we have Chief Information Security Officer, Angel Redoble, and Mr. Kevin Pangan of the Regulatory and Strategic Affairs. For Dito Telecommunication, we have Attorney Kenneth Centillas. From Secure Connections, we have Ms. Mary Grace Mirandilla Santos, Mr. Angelo Gutierrez, and Mr. Froland Tahale. And from the think tank Privacy and Security by Design, we have former Privacy Commissioner, Mr. Raymond Liboro. That's all, Your Honor.
Thank you to our Secretariat. May we begin with anybody here physically present who may have an opening statement?
Good afternoon again, Madam Chair. We submitted a position paper to the Honorable Committee. I think it was sent by email yesterday, and we added some other information this morning. Can I go?
Yes. Just not the whole thing. I've seen it. It's pretty long. So go ahead.
Yeah. Magandang hapon po ulit sa lahat. In relation to the present text scams that we are receiving, we wish to inform the committee that since 2015 up to the present, the National Telecommunications Commission has been doing a comprehensive information drive. Ang aming pong ginagawa is we ask, every time there is a new variant na lumalabas po ng text scam, we ask the telcos to text blast to all the subscribers na a warning that wag po maniniwala dito sa mga lumalabas na messages na to. And then we also ask our regional directors to go to the media in their respective areas and to be interviewed and to make announcements and warnings po to the public para po ma-inform ang ating public na ganun po that there are scams that are being perpetrated. For 2022 alone, Your Honors, we were able to send 3 text blasts, May 2022, June, and August 2022 po.
Konti nun, tatlo lang.
Yes.
Samantalang araw-araw, ang average siguro mga 5 o 10 nakukuha ang mga text scam messages.
We will abide by, we will add po ng mga text blast pa po. And then we also send our regional directors to be interviewed by various media outlets po. For example, in the NCR, for this year, mga 26 times po lumabas sa media, different TV and radio stations, and in the other areas po. So, We also sent, Your Honor, addendum to our letter this morning on that this text camps has been happening, kung paano po nangyari sa other countries. Actually, they are really preying on the victims of COVID-19, yung pong fear, at saka po yung nawala ng trabaho. So, the International Telecoms Union ay nagbigay po ng four-pronged approach, which would also like to adopt in the Philippines. The first is yung pong public information, what we are doing right now, and we will intensify it based on the observation of Madam Chair. And also the telcos po, they have already adopted a blocking software. Maybe they can expound on it later if they see it uses algorithms and to recognize, hindi naman po kasi sila pwede mag-monitor. So it's a software-based technology na kapag nakita po na itong mga words na ganito or sobrang daming text na pinapadala ng isang SIM card, that SIM card is blocked right away. But the problem with that, well, the problem, Madam Honor, is also based on the fact that napakamura na po kasi ng SIM card ngayon, Madam Chair. It's being sold at, I think, 30 pesos or even less, and then ang text po is unlimited for 10 pesos to 20 pesos per day. So yun pong ating magandang hangarin na tulungan ng ating mga kababayan na makapag-text, makapag-coordinate sa kanilang mga kamag-anak, makatawag, ay naapekto, ay ginamit naman ngayon as a way nung po may mga masasamang loob dahil mura po ito at saka konti na po ang kailang gasto. So I think, Madam Chair, the third approach would be SIM card registration po talaga, Madam Chair. Because the NTC and the other law enforcement agencies, even if they're able to trace the number, we would need identity for that number. And then yun pong ano po, on the part of the ano naman po of the public, dapat po sumunod sila dito po sa binabanggit po ng na advice po ng sa government side, which is yun pong mga warnings na ini-issue namin. They should also always upgrade their iOS systems po. Yung pong system ng kanilang phone, nagpapadala po ng update, dapat po i-update para po hindi po sila mapasok ng malware or ng virus. Yun po yun.
Thank you, Attorney Cordova. Actually, out of the four that you mentioned, the only thing that NTC has really been doing is public information. Parang ganun lang kayo yung PR, kayo lang yung nagbibigay ng warning sa publiko. But in actuality, everything is lodged with the telcos. Parang sinasabi nyo, responsibilidad yan ng telco, yung kanilang algorithm, blocking mechanism. Tapos, yung SIM card Registration Act na dapat ipasa ng Kongreso, at ang sinasabi mo rin, yung mga consumers na dapat sumunod sila, yung mga subscribers. So kayo, ang trabaho lang talaga ninyo ay magsabi sa telco na mag-text blast kayo ng warning. Ganun ba yung sinasabi mo?
Actually, Madam Chair, yung pong software blocking ay napag-usapan po namin kaya po in-implement po.
Napag-usapan but you don't have the capabilities, what you're saying, right?
No.
Yeah, no, I understand that part, but what are you doing? Don't you have any complaints hotline, for example? And what is the update on that? Have you actually caught anyone and brought them to be responsible for what they've done? Can you explain?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have a hotline po.
Ano yung hotline ninyo?
It's in our website. Nasa website lang po namin. I'll get it po. And,
hindi mo memorize yung hotline number? Kung hindi nga po ninyo alam, Mr. Chairman, kung anong hotline number ninyo, kami pa kaya?
I will get po. Nasa website po kasi namin, Madam Chair. So we get complaints po from there and then we block po the numbers that are complained of.
You know, I'm very disappointed. This is something, if you were really serious about this issue, this would be at the top of your head and you would really tell the and you text.
The number po, 896 OSPAC.
Ano?
Ano po, the number po is OSPAC. Susundin lang po yung OSPAC po. Yun po yung ano, yun po yun.
Oh, sige, sundin mo yung number. Ano yun?
Yes. Public Assistance Center po kasi.
OS.
PAC po. 89006, S is 7, P7, A po is 2, and C is 2 also.
Attorney Cordova, how long have you been at the helm of the NTC?
12 years, ma'am.
12 years.
Yes.
You think the learning curve should be over by now?
Yes.
I know that we are trying to catch up with technology, but this is very basic. Diba parang 911 yan or kung ano man yung mga number na pwedeng itawag. Pag nagpapadala ng babala or warning yung mga telco, sinasama ba nila itong 896 OSPAC? Parang hindi ko naman, may I ask Globe or Smart if you've been provided that hotline number and if you've actually sent that information to your subscribers? Mr. Raganon, you're recognized.
We do have the general hotline of NTC for consumer complaints that our subscribers can report contents.
Okay, what's that? Can you give me an example of one of the text blasts that you've sent recently?
As for text blast, Your Honor, I'll check whether we did message the hotline for NTC.
Okay, I think it would be wise to include the yes, Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Just to add po, what we do po kasi, we don't put the hotline. Kasi po, ang nangyari po kasi, it's possible that meron po kasi mga nangyari before na nirereklamo ang isang number, yun po pala ay sa kaaway lang po nila. It's not because of a text.
So parang sinasabi mo may hotline kayo pero sikreto.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Hindi po.
So why should you even have a number if you're not ready for these kinds of intrusion?
No, ma'am. We are ready po. What happens po kasi is we ask them to file a complaint. So that if, for example, we block a number and that the number is not really po, hindi naman po talaga text scam, meron po kaming complaint na basis to block that number.
Okay, I understand that there has to be some sort of correspondence just to verify. But can you tell me how many already have submitted a complaint in that hotline, and what actions have you taken?
For 2022 po, we have around 800 around 800 na kinumplain.
Okay, ilan ba ang may cellphone? Ilang milyon?
100, maybe 100 plus million.
800 lang yan. Alam mo, this is so tragic. It's funny already. I mean, 800 lang yung natanggap ninyo kasi nga kahit ako hindi ko alam meron pala.
Baka malito kayo dun sa... Ay, nako. Ay, nako, nakakatawang nakakaiyak. Okay. Maybe, you know, when I start laughing, because I can't stop the fit of when laughter, so I'd like to be excused for that. I'm sorry. Let me ask now, maybe the Secretary of the DICT, then later on the NBI. Bago ko magtanong mga ibang tanong, sir, your take on the matter. I know that you were newly appointed, and congratulations for your appointment.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I fully empathize with your frustration po. It's a frustration that I believe all of us share in dealing with the current typical government bureaucracy in dealing with concerns of the public. well, in terms of proactiveness that Senator Joel Villanueva has mentioned earlier, I'd like to just share with everyone that yesterday during the state visit of the president in Singapore, where I joined him, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the ICT Department Ministry of Singapore, where we are actually we will be conducting skills and upgrading of our digital response capability to deal with different areas that relates to cybersecurity, cybercrime, cyber investigation, and cyber threats analysis. This is one of the areas where we actually noticed that there is a serious capacity deficiency that many of our agencies are currently suffering. So, as Senator Villanueva has mentioned, many of the first world countries have addressed several of these concerns through new ways of investigation and new ways of approaching. Many of these cyber scams actually are deeper than what it seems to be, no? And we could share with the honorable senator and the rest of the committee in executive session if you wish to know what type of investigative approaches we've done in order to minimize, if not actually eventually arrest these perpetrators.
Sir, actually, I think it's under your department that will really have the expertise to come up with a system to be able to determine which ones are actual tech scams and to have the capability to stop them. So I'm glad to hear that there is this agreement between Singapore and the Philippines to go on to cooperate with each other. So in terms of that, would they be able to share, I mean, without going into detail, technology of what they have? Are they willing to give us that technology?
Those will have to be part of our eventual negotiations. However, in terms of sharing know-how, sharing their expertise and experts teaching our law enforcement, our cyber investigators on the techniques that are being used, those are already part of the memorandum of understanding.
Okay, I'm looking forward to this. I feel that the priority of the DICT, aside from the National Broadband Plan, which I and many of our colleagues is really in full support of, we would like to see also the strengthening of the cybersecurity aspect. Obviously, they don't have the expertise in the NTC because they're more of regulators. But when it comes to the actual technical capabilities, it would be under the expertise of the Department of Information Communication Technology. So we will ask for updates from you every now and then, and maybe personally we can just discuss what we can ask from Singapore and if we're willing to help us.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, Singapore is just one of the countries. We are also in talks with several countries that are fairly advanced in tracking down cyber terrorists and cyber crimes. Many of these cyber criminals are no longer lone wolf. They are syndicates. They are criminal syndicates, very well funded, international in scope, and some of them are even state sponsored. So the approach really is not local. Excuse me, po. Approach is not local. We need to work with other cyber law enforcers all over the world because the money trail actually goes everywhere. And we need to pin them down regardless of which jurisdiction would cover it. And we need those types of international cooperation.
You are correct, sir. There are no boundaries. There are no physical boundaries to communication. So really an country cooperation is needed. So I'm glad to see that your seeming proactive stand on this really gives us hope that in the near future hopefully we will find something that's effective in protecting our subscribers. I would like to, mamaya gusto ko rin tanungin yung NBI kung meron na kayong nahuli Pero kayo, sabi niyo sir, that you were able to block all those 800 numbers.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So tell me, what happened
Madam
after you
Chairperson?
blocked them? Okay. Hi, Senator Bina is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Before we move on to the next guest, baka pwede in the next hearing, we could do an executive session as suggested by Secretary Ivan. Dahil maganda talagang malaman kung technology-wise, ano na ba talaga yung capability ng ating cybersecurity team. Yun lang po, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Senator Nancy, for joining us. I know you're quite tired, but thank you. Sir, ano po nangyari dun sa 800? Basta na lang blinak ninyo?
We blocked them po based on the complaint, ma'am. Kasi meron po siyang narration of the complainant and basis, so we blocked it.
You blocked it. Were you able to trace those numbers?
Hindi po, ma'am, kasi when we trace it, naka-off na po yung iba. Yung iba po, it moves po. And actually po, based on the recommendation of Senator Binay, we can discuss po yung details of those during the executive session.
Did you at least submit those numbers to the telecom companies?
Ma'am, actually, we block it through them po. We ask them to block this particular number.
So sila, okay.
Yes.
May I now ask the NBI, kasi di ba ngayon kalat-kalat hindi natin alam saan tayo magre-report kung na-scam tayo ng isang fraudster. So meron bang dumiretso sa inyo at hindi pumunta sa NTC o nirefer sa inyo ng NTC o nirefer sa inyo ng mga telco o diretsong pumunta sa inyo?
Okay. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. I'm quite happy to be invited in this endeavor. Kasi po I feel that ako po bilang bagong designated na head ng Cyber Investigation Assessment Center would be able to speak about this with empathy and passion. Kasi po, I think, alam po ni Secretary Uyan, I actually pioneered cybercrime investigation in the NBI. I was the first one to apply for a search warrant in 2001. Even at that time when there was yet a law available to define and penalize cybercriminality in the Philippines. And even dating back the year 2001, I have been speaking about the limitations of law enforcement with respect to securing information for us to be able to pinpoint to people using prepaid SIM cards in the crimes that they actually commit. Ilang beses po akong umattend ng Senate hearings before. Nagsalita po ako. Masyadong simple po yung mga crimes before. Sabi ko, in the future, this crime would actually evolve such that there really is a need for us to come up with a system wherein law enforcement will be aided, will be given the tool in identifying the one using a prepaid SIM card. And the only way for us to be able to do that is if we come up with a law that would require prepaid SIM card users to register the numbers. That was 20 years ago. Ilang beses po akong umattend. We even came up with Republic Act 10175. Sa mga attendance po namin before, binanggit na namin siya. Yung mga crimes po na binabanggit namin 20 years ago na hindi pa nangyayari na po siya ngayon. Kaya naman po sabi ko kanina, I feel that I'm quite passionate about this. Kasi 2 months from the time of my designation, yung sinasabi ko na noong 20 years ago nangyayari na po ngayon. Kaya po ako masaya na imbitahan po ako ulit dito.
So finally, dati hindi kayo yung head niyan.
I was actually the executive officer of the Anti-Fraud and Computer Crimes Division in 2001 up to 2009. Then the NBI eventually separated the Anti-Fraud from Cybercrime Division. I was the first Cybercrime Division chief of the NBI in 2010. Pagkatapos po noon, napunta na po ako sa iba-ibang opisina ng NBI at ngayon po nakabalik lang po ako sa bagong office na kinraid ng NBI, yung CIAC, yung Cyber Investigation Assessment Center, which oversees the operations of the Cybercrime Division and the Cyber Search Division.
Well, I'm glad that they put somebody proactive there. I mean, I'm quite shocked that as early as 2001, you've already been sounding the alarm. So now, I'm glad to hear about your credible background. But I would like to ask, have you received complaints already from specific numbers, on specific numbers rather?
Okay lang. Sa cybercrime division, meron po. Pero ang maganda po kasi dito, prior to my designation now as SIAC head, I was anti-fraud division chief for 2 years during the height of the pandemic. And during the height of the pandemic, 5-5 po ang pumupuntang complaints sa NBI kung saan the crime is actually being facilitated by mobile phone users na gumagamit ng prepaid SIM cards. To answer that question, meron po, marami pong pumupunta sa amin. And unfortunately, while we will be able to act on it based on what is available to the NBI, we will always end up facing a blank wall because in order for us to be able to arrest, kailangan i-identify. For us to be able to arrest and eventually file cases, we have to identify. And pag na-identify na po namin yan, we will be able to eventually file the case before the prosecutor's office.
So what
Pero
you're
wala
saying,
po.
Right now, hindi ninyo ma-identify kasi nga tatapon lang yung SIM card na ganon.
Noon pa po, sinasabi namin na a lot of criminals using prepaid SIM cards would only use the prepaid SIM cards for the purpose of perpetrating the crime. Pag natapos na po sila sa krimen nila, all that they have to do is dispose the SIM cards. Okay. Wala na, we wouldn't be able to pinpoint or identify them kasi hindi na sila available sa system.
Okay, so bale wala pang napaparusahan dito sa fraud na ganito. Meron na bang na-file ng kaso na nahulihan na nagpapadala ng mga illegal na mga bagay o kaya meron na ba?
Ma'am, just from my recollection, I think before po kasi, when the perpetrators were not so creative yet, they stayed in one place. I think Globe, katulong po namin ng Globe noon, we were able to, sa Batangas, nakahuli po kami ng isang place. Kung saan po may gumagawa nito na parang isang barangay po siya.
I think
Batangas.
Later on, of course, we'll hear from the Data Privacy Commission kasi sila yung ayaw nito Sila lang I think. Pero lahat naman tayo, I think we're in agreement that this should be, and I don't think there's any constitutional problem here when the state's interest is in peril. Diba? When we talk about that, I mean, of course, we have freedom of expression, but all freedoms are not absolute, especially when it encroaches on the rights, safety, and protection of others. So anyway, I will leave the discussion first now to our very capable Vice Chair of the Committee on Public Services, because I also have to attend the same meeting that they just attended. So I will give him a copy of this. I'm sure he's very aware of the situation as well. Okay, I will be back.
After we'll just continue with the hearing as the chair will also join the call of the U.S. Ambassador, but she will be back shortly. Siguro tuloy na lang po natin, no? Sino ba tayo? Ano ito, DICD, NBI, and National and PC. That's our siguro baka natanong natin pero I don't know, but just want to hear also. Does our cybercrime defense in the government also involve as fast as these digital transformation and scams? So siguro ba una na ang DICT, Attorney Secretary? Itikin yung problema natin ngayon kasi yung data, yung privacy. I think yun yung nakatakot kasi kami lahat nakukuha yung numbers namin Yun ang medyo. Sige po.
Opo, Mr. Chair. And thank you for giving us the floor po. Actually, that's correct po, no? As we move more to digitalize and get more of our citizens connected, we become more exposed to also different forms of risks, especially in terms of cybercrime activities. Criminals always take the opportunity whenever a new mode of technology or a new mode of doing business happens. They also adopt their own ways and digitize their criminal activity, so to speak. So the government has to respond quickly, and we actually have several programs that have been launched in order to educate the public in being more aware of cyber criminals, cyber scams, and we do share, especially the trainings on the younger population on cyber hygiene, how to protect themselves. However, because of the pandemic, the acceleration of digital adoption was unprecedented. People were locked down, and so a lot of online classes, online transactions grew at an exponential rate. And our education, our cyber awareness did not catch up because of that rapid increase.
So during the pandemic, it increased, especially mga apps, everything,
Yes.
technology.
Everybody started
was
using online.
Was online. So we were not able to cope up, so to speak.
Yes,
Parang ganun
yes,
lang.
sir. So we are trying to catch up now, and we are rapidly developing materials and education training. And at the same time, we are also rapidly scaling our cyber crime detection, our cyber investigation capabilities in order to meet this growing threat of cyber crime and cyber criminals. Although these are all on the criminal response po, no? But at the same time, we also need to build up on our cybersecurity posture as well as our cyber defense capabilities. We saw po in the recent history, especially what's happening in Europe with the Russian-Ukraine conflict, as well as the recent issue with Taiwan of the visit of Senator Pelosi, that our cyber defense and cybersecurity is a very critical aspect of our national security that we also need to build up. So medyo challenging.
Not to cut you, but what are the breakthroughs and capabilities that we are doing to stop proliferation of these kinds of legal activities? May mga breakthrough na ba tayo?
Ang distinction is on the criminal response, investigation, criminal response vis-a-vis cybersecurity po. On the criminal response side, we are actually empowering our cybercrime investigators as well as our CICC, which is the agency that's tasked to investigate and coordinate with all the cybercrime law enforcement agencies in order to respond to this. So we have a brand new executive director po. I think he was just appointed a few weeks ago, and he's currently is on top of the situation. I could turn the floor over to him for a more specific report po.
Please do so. Sino po? Yusek Alex Ramos of Class 88, Maningal.
Thank you, Senator. With regards to the issue of the text scam, even before this blew up into our face, the CICC had been gathering data. And however, upon my appointment, I ordered our people not to wait for the complaints. I told them to start gathering in the field. So we're collecting as much numbers as we can, study the linkages attached to the messages that they receive, so that we would be able to study the behavior of this type of crime. Although we have some leads already, we're still in the middle of this investigation that we may be able to share through, as earlier mentioned, through an executive session.
Okay, thank you. Incidentally, napunta rin po tayo na lang sa ano. Just like to ask, siguro NBI, BNP, yung mga cybercrime division, how do we equip our agents, our enforcers to be knowledgeable or at least know the technical skill, no, in dealing with the evolving cybercrime activities? Siguro pwede tayo magsimula sa NBI, then we go with PNP. Anong ginagawa na po natin with the cybercrime division of NBI?
Constant naman po ang mga trainings na binibigay sa ating mga agents. And I am quite glad in saying that while crimes actually evolve, yung crimes na nag-evolve naman po with respect to the skills of our agents is medyo at par. Ang kakulangan lang po talaga, apart from equipment to do forensics, is yung tool of that will be provided by the law. Kasi we're actually talking about tech scams. Bagamat magaling yung agent, bagamat merong forensic tools, bagamat kompleto na ang ebidensya, but the very basic question of who actually committed the crime, you wouldn't be able to identify the person using the prepaid SIM cards. And you obviously you wouldn't be able to file a case kung hindi mo siya na-identify. And that could only be possible kung meron po talagang facility that would help the NBI in identifying the person at the end of the SIM card. So yan po ang aming ina-appeal. Yung skills po madaling matutunan is unang-una, as you go with all the cases that you handle on a day-to-day basis, ano na yan comfort zone na nga actually yan, nagiging template na sa amin yan Pero yung paulit-ulit nating i-request that empower us by allowing us, by means of a law, to identify these people, malaking tulong po sa amin yun.
I would agree. So that would be the biggest challenge talaga. Because yung prepaid talaga, ang hirap ng identity di ba? So, you're saying that when, in case the SIM card law is enacted, yung identification, that would make it much, much easier for every enforced cybercrime division to identify and to solve most of the cybercrime issues?
Most po, Mr. Senator. Kasi unang-una, tatlo pong bagay yan Number one is do investigation, and eventually, number one is identify the person committing the crime. Once you've identified him, locate him, and collect evidence. And kung hindi na po siya available kasi nagtatago na siya, at least we'll be able to file a case before the prosecutor's office. When additional evidence comes out, nasa fiscal na yung kaso or the case is actually elevated in court, may warrant siya, meron tayong reference point kung saan siya pupuntahan, ma-arresto natin siya.
So, probably more than half of the challenge is the SIM card registration.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes. Si Nancy?
Yes, siguro just for the record, Mr. Chairman, during the previous Congress, napasa na namin itong SIM card registration. Kaso lang, unfortunately, it was vetoed by the President. Ilang, Mr. Chairman. And tsaka siguro gusto ko lang din itanong, Mr. Chairman, kasi diba, alam natin, yung dati, yung mga text sa atin, walang pangalan. Pero ngayon, kumbaga, naging personalized na yung text blast. Meron na bang investigation, I don't know which agency, kung paano nila na-access yung ganitong personal information?
Thank you. That's a very valid question from Senator Nancy. Actually, tama po, napasa yung SIM card registration but just vetoed last by the President last Congress. Hopefully this time, mas madali na ito kasi pasa naman So I think this really much needed right now. Siguro I think Secretary Ivan Janoy, you're nodding your head. I'm sure you are in favor of the SIM card registration. So,
Mr. Chairman, just to add lang Mr. Chairman, na ako mismo nakatanggap ng personal text. Yung text scam, na pangalan ko na yung nakalagay dun sa text. So talaga nakakapagtaka kung saan at paano nila nakuha yung ganong data.
Siguro before we move on to that, mamaya balik ako yung sa PNP, cybercrime naman, kung ano yung ginagawa nyo. Actually, valid yung tinatanong ni Senator Nancy. Ako rin po, Just like our Senate President, nakakuha rin po, I was also a victim na mismong pangalan ko, ako mismo tinetext at hinihingan din po ako. Nagpanggap siyang governor din. Pero nagduda na po ako kasi ang kulit. Wala namang governor na ganun kakulit eh. Di ba? For 50,000-60,000 na pinapa-sponsor. And recently, yung mga text ngayon, nandun na yung pangalan. Personalized. So yun siguro, probably we can go into that. Probably we can ask siguro sa NTC, Globe, Smart, and the telcos who are here, saan nakukuha yung information, yung number, yung pangalan. Kasi I guess everybody, ganun na po ang nangyayari. No? So siguro, balikan ko na po yung cybercam mamaya kung ano ginagawa kasi po yung query po ni Senator Nancy. Siguro si Attorney Cordoba, ang ating NTC resident spokesperson. Sige po, ano pong...
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. Ano po, based on coordination with the National Privacy Commission and with the telcos, may makita po kami mga possibilities, but hindi pa naman po ito na-drill down. First po kasi is if you enter a number and save it in your phone, lumalabas din po kasi yung Viber name. Like for example, in my case po, hindi naman na-discover ko po na hindi naman hindi nakuha yung full name ko. Ang nilagay ko kasi sa Viber is a different name. So noon pong may nag-text sa akin, ang nakalagay po yung Viber name ko na hindi ko naman totoong pangalan. Another possibility po is during the pandemic, marami po tayong sinalihan na groups. For example, yung pong mga sellers, nagbebenta po ng face mask, ng antigen testing, gloves, ganyan. So maaring doon din po nakuha. And then, if you would remember, so many groups, so many LGUs din po, many buildings are asking for your details before you enter during the pandemic. So, marami pong possibility, Your Honor. So, yun po ang mga pwede. Your Honor, idagdag ko lang po. There was a question from Senator Grace kanina tungkol po dun sa numbers po, yung complaint hotline po ng NTC. This is in our website po. I can...
Please, for the guidance and the information of the committee.
Opo. The number po is 02... we have several numbers po. 892-04-464. Tapos isa pa pong number, yung pong sinabi ko kanina, palitan lang ito isang number. 892-67722 at saka 02-891-3251. And ano po, nasa website naman po namin lahat ito. At saka po yung aming email is consumer@ntc.gov.ph. So yun pong nabanggit po kasi namin kay Senator Grace kanina, meron po mga nagreklamo sa amin. If there's a written complaint, we block the numbers that is nirereklamo na nagpadala po ng spam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman Cordoba. Siguro we can ask also sa Attorney Leandro Aguirre of Privacy Commissioner sa NPC. Ano pong what do you think, where are the data? Probably sa mga Viber nga, sa mga iba't ibang information that are given.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So first, we want to distinguish the current smishing messages that have the name with the ones that happened in late 2021 related to the job scams. So the job scams in late 2021, based on our initial investigation and the coordination with NTC and the telcos, seem to have come from involved data aggregators. But the ones that we're seeing now, katulad po na nabanggit ni Commissioner Liel kanina, a lot of this seems to be a result of scraping or harvesting from payment applications, messaging applications. So ito po yung initially nakikita natin. Hindi po to manual harvesting kasi that will not be efficient. So
and that would take time.
That will take time.
I think ito parang ang bilis Parang meron ng ready data or information that they really get from. Parang gano'n ang naisip natin.
So there's an automated way of going through that. So that's what we're initially seeing. We're not ruling out the possibility of a leak or a breach, but based on the evidence we're seeing, it seems unlikely at this point in time. The same with manual contact tracing forms, yung i-encode po lahat ng mga fini-fill out natin because that will also not be efficient and also not consistent with the names that we're seeing from the text messages.
So, Attorney, ang tingin nyo, if yung mga data that we filled out, for example, nung lockdown, nung kainitan ng lockdown sa bawat every time we enter, di ba, lagay natin cellphone, email, at iba pa. So that would not, it's not possible kasi that will iba parang mas madali talaga yung madali siya mag-extract na yun in a ready-made data siguro. Yung talagang what do you think?
Hindi naman po hindi possible. It's possible but it's not likely because of what we're seeing right now. And sunod din lang po ako sa nabanggit kanina ni Sec Ivan kanina. Nag-increase po tong gantong mga situations because of the pandemic. I think when everyone had to work from home, there was a shift also in the different technologies that people had to use, and they were vulnerable. They didn't have the necessary preparation in mind. Hindi nila naisip yung security. They had to make do with various solutions para magawa nila yung work from home arrangements.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Nancy.
The question lang, kasi parang ngayon puro initial findings lang, diba? Kung ano talaga yung pwedeng scenarios, kailan ho maglalabas attorney ng final report kung ano ba talaga yung concrete na dahilan kung paano nga nagkaroon ng breach of privacy?
Yes, Sir Nancy. Mahirap po magbigay ng exact timetable. Ginagawa po namin ngayon, pinapalaki namin yung database na ginagamit ng aming Complaints and Investigation Division by asking the public to take screenshots of the messages that they're getting, email it to reportsmishing@privacy.gov.ph. Kasi ang ginagawa po namin, tinitingnan namin yung mga link na nandyan, sinusundan namin to figure out sino ang nagbe-benefit sa mga scam messages na to, sa mga phishing messages. Kasi nabanggit na nga po kanina, mahirap i-identify kung sino yung nagpadala. At clarify ko rin lang po yung position nabanggit kanina ni Senator Grace po. Hindi naman po against ang National Privacy Commission sa SIM card registration. Siguro you're aware din naman po na nagpalit na po yung commissioner ng National Privacy Commission. And our position is we support the intentions of the SIM card registration bill. We're only cautioning in relation to the creation of a centralized database, which might make it more susceptible to targeting. We're also reminding, I guess, our people that when it comes to the verification of the identity, the private dealers may not actually be the ones that are more knowledgeable or capable of actually detecting kung fake yung IDs na pinapakita sa kanila, kasi the burden will be on the private dealers so to determine if you are who you say you are. So I think those are things that we're just cautioning. But in terms of support for the intention of the SIM card registration, the National Privacy Commission supports that, and especially given what we're seeing now, where we're also facing that dead end in terms of finding out who actually sent the messages. Doon din po yung nakikita namin. Yung sa amin lang po, tingnan natin also figure out how we can future-proof this, because once we come up with the SIM card registration bill or act, then they will migrate into another mechanism. So maybe...
I see what your point is, Attorney Aguirre. It's really the central database and how we are able to make sure that it will not be hacked or it will not be used unscrupulously by those that control it. Now, because, obviously the main goal of the National Privacy Commission is to protect the privacy of the individual. But ironically, what's happening now is our privacy is what's being violated by all of these scams being sent to us because they have our information, precisely because of that. So it seems like it might be an encroachment to the privacy of a person to provide their information. At the same time, it's an antidote to what's happening now. The way that we can guarantee it to be serving its purpose, which is to protect the privacy of the individual, is for the system of the telecommunications companies on how they harvest that information and how they secure it. Ganito kasi yon. Dito sa bill na to, kung ikaw ay may SIM, bibili ka ng SIM, you have to show a government ID, issued ID, and then with that ID, they can get your name, your address, your date of birth. Okay. Kung ikaw naman ay minor, less than 18 years old, if I'm not mistaken, you should be accompanied by your parent, a parent or a guardian, to allow you to register for a SIM card. Now, tatanungin ko yung telco, paano ngayon yan? Kasi marami sa atin bumibili ng SIM sa mga tindahan. 'Di ba? Mga sari-sari stores nagtitinda ng SIM, tama, 'di ba? O yung mga ibang dealers no, hindi naman puro centralized lang sa Globe dealer o ano, iba-iba to. Pag nag-submit doon, paano yung transmission sa inyo at paano mapoprotektahan yung nasubmit sa kanila?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. I recognize Ariel Tubayo from Globe Telecom. Maganda nga po yung tanong nyo kasi when we were preparing to implement the SIM card registration in anticipation of the passage, we look also at the central registry, which may be possible source of a breach. But I noticed that in the enrolled bill, this was already removed. And ang concern na lang really is, do we really want dealers and up to the level of sari-sari stores to be registrants, which may be sources of breach. So, ang naisip namin po, centralized na lang po sa telco mismo ang magre-register. One registrant. And then, possibly, online na rin ang platform to register. And then...
So, paano yun? Kunyari, nasa probinsya ako, let's say, Iloilo, saan doon pupunta?
Yes. We will be providing an online platform for SIM buyers to register. So, initially po, what we propose is that although dealers and sari-sari stores may sell the SIMs, these are deactivated at the first instance. They will only be able to use it once they register to our online platform.
That's actually, there's more clarity in that. And
yes, ma'am.
Reason. How about for Smart?
Yes, Madam Chair, we agree. That is really a concern kasi we really don't have the capability to track all our resellers. May mga reseller na talagang wala kami visibility. So, maganda pong suggestion nyo na wag mo na i-activate yung SIM card pag nabenta kunwari, pag nag-register na. Yun po ang isang magandang ano.
Because in this law, the one that will take care of the central database of information will be the telco companies. Diba? You don't have to submit this to the National Privacy Commission or the DICT. Kayo lang ang may hawak niyan. At mas mabuti yon para hindi nasasala lahat na kung saan-saan nang may mga kopya niyan. And I'd like to assure you also, our distinguished resource persons, that we cannot, not just anybody can compel the telcos to provide the information. It has to be a court order or subpoenaed by a government institution that has subpoena powers or for an ongoing investigation. Ang NBI may subpoena powers kayo, di ba? Meron? Oh, so
Madam Chair.
Senator Nancy, you're recognized.
Question lang. Have they studied yung setup in other countries? For example, because I know for a fact like Malaysia, meron din silang SIM card registration. Meron na bang ginawang pag-aaral kung paano, siguro yung mga best practices nila na pwede nating i-apply dito sa ating SIM card registration? When it comes to data gathering?
Yes, maybe the telcos can answer this. Can you cite a best practice example from another country that you'd like to adopt?
Actually, Madam Chair, the proposal that we made is based on the presentations made by several vendors, solutions vendors for SIM card registration, and that's one of the I think best practices that may be adopted. So deactivated muna ang benta, although it can be sold in the market, but this will be deactivated at the first instance, and they will only be able to use it once they register.
Here's the problem, okay? You're supposed to provide identification. So if you're going to do it online, how do you do that?
There are also best practices in registering through online platforms. I think this is already being done through I think even the central bank has sanctioned this when it allowed applications such as PDAX, that's Philippine, I think that's one dealing with currencies, virtual currencies. So the person registering will present the passport, have a photo taken together with the passport, and a biometric.
Biometrics? So if you're at home, paano mo gagawin biometric?
We on the details, Madam Chair, I don't know exactly how this will be done, as we're still studying the solutions that will be applied when this law takes effect.
Because that's precisely the point. There should be identification, but the person should be there to show the identification. Yes. So in the meantime, I think it will have to be directly in your centers unless it can't be done. I mean, I know that you do this, like when you apply for a visa for a certain country, you have to upload your picture and your information. But, you know, people can just use any random ID when they're doing it remotely or online.
Yes.
So but before you answer that, I'd like to acknowledge Secretary Uy. You might have a solution to this.
Yes, Madam Chair. That's precisely why we're rushing the national ID. Because the deployment of the national ID will actually simplify a lot of the identity issues. What could happen, one way of doing that is, let's say once they buy the SIM card, when they're going to register, they key in or they scan the barcode of their national ID. And then once it's scanned, it accesses the data to verify the identity. And if it's able to verify the identity, they can validate it now with facial recognition from your phone camera or from your biometric that you are the person who's registering. So that way, it's basically a know your client method, but on a digital platform.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that national ID. So how far along are we in the distribution of those national IDs?
Yes, the challenge actually is on the printing of the card ID po. That's meeting some challenges because of the Bangko Central issue with the printer. So far as I've been apprised, we have about 15 million out of the almost 80 million that has already been captured. The biometrics has already been captured, and it's going to take a while. So what we will be doing is we will be moving forward with a digital ID that will be deployed on all mobile devices of all those that have been that the data has been captured. That way, they can take their time printing that card if they want to, but everybody will now be able to validate their identity using a digital platform.
I think that's very good. Let's work closely on that because I know there's a lot to be printed. There's how many? 110 million Filipinos. But then remember, every election year, we have about 40, 50 million voters. And each of those voters will have how many pages that's being printed. So it can be done. I guess we have to invite the central bank to find out what's really going on. In the meantime, sirs, in the telco, please prepare an alternative to how you can identify these clients without first having the national ID.
Yes,
diba?
Yes, Madam Chair. Actually, I'm glad that the Secretary Uy mentioned about the digital ID because that will greatly help us. But absent the digital IDs, what we're proposing also is that we'll have access only to verify with government issuing government ID issuers for us to have an interface by which we can verify the same information as that of the national ID. So that's one alternative, Madam Chair, while the national ID, digital IDs are not yet fully rolled out.
Okay, how about Mr. Raganon?
Ma'am, one challenge po ma'am dun sa SIM registration implementation po, yung pag-validate po ng mga ID. Hindi po kaya ng mga telcos po na ma-validate kung etong ID na to, talagang etong person na to. Mas maganda po na meron tayong capability na i-bash tong ID versus sa ganitong, for example, database ng government to ensure na talagang valid itong ID.
Not well. I don't know. Attorney Uy, Secretary Uy?
Opo, no? Well, we're exactly in the recto room. There are many recto IDs po that's going out there. And so I fully commiserate with the challenge. But that's why the national ID is very important. And we really intend to deploy it at the soonest possible time. In the meantime, for instance, what Globe has been doing when you want to do a GCash registration, part of their KYC is they have to take a photo of a passport. And I think they're able to validate from the passport data with the DFA to determine whether that passport is authentic or not. I think that's how you do it. But currently, the problem is that all the different ID issuing agencies in the country do not speak to each other. And they all have different data standards. They all have different data formats. There is no harmonization of the data. There is no interoperability or sharing of those data. And that's very conducive for fraud because there is now no way of easily validating the identity. So a person can assume several identities using different documents. And that's what's happening for instance, in our social amelioration. Some people are able to reclaim twice or three times because they assume different identities in different jurisdictions. So we need to work on that from the systems perspective and from a data perspective. We need to clean up.
Yeah. Actually,
Madam Chair?
Senator Nancy, just a minute. Before we recognize Senator Nancy, I just want to say that in Singapore, SIMs are sold deactivated. It needs registration in an online portal, uploading of ID, and a selfie. Now, GCash is also here to share their Know Your Customers procedure. So, Senator Nancy, before I call GCash, would you like to add anything else?
Yes. Siguro, just to add, Madam Chairperson, kay Secretary Uy, hindi ba it's just a question of budget din? Kasi we're not spending on upgrading our system. Siguro, share ka lang, for example, yung daughter ko is studying abroad. Alam mo ba, Madam Chairperson, for them to get a bank account, online na lang yung application. So they kumuha siya ng picture niya, tapos in-upload niya yung passport niya. Tapos the next day, in 24 hours, nag-email na sa kanya yung bangko na ito yung bank account niya. So I mean, in technology-wise, I think it's there. Baka hindi kaya, Secretary, we're not spending enough. Hindi po ba ganun din yung scenario na nangyayari sa atin? Kaya we're prone to itong mga scams na to.
Madam Chair, I think more like we're not spending smart. I think we have to do more smart spending on how we strategize our resources to do that po. Just to give you an example po, I needed to hire a driver for my office, and the requirements have to be filled up, PDS and everything. And because of his being a driver, he needs to present his professional driver's license. When he presented his professional driver's license, hindi tinanggap ng HR namin. Kasi daw, kailangan pa na isang certificate from LTO that yung driver's license niya ay tunay. So, what's the purpose of having that driver's license when our own government agencies do not rely on the authenticity of that driver's license? They want a certificate from LTO of the authenticity of the driver's license. Yung certificate pwede rin ma-fake. So you go back. It's a catch-22. It's actually I'm sorry to say, very intellectually challenged. I don't like to use the word.
No, exactly. I guess we've had kasi na this hearing, but a lot of the information that has been taken, I feel has come from, maybe I'd like to hear GCash kasi the feedback that we get from at our office is that they feel that the leak has come from GCash, Viber. So Viber unfortunately did not send a representative here today, but I can attest to receiving text from Viber Pilipinas, which I didn't subscribe to. And it's true that the names of the ones that have subscribed apparently are not listed in the names of the ones that have actually supposedly subscribed, but the administrators are all there. And there are about 10 administrators. So if there are 10 administrators, that means those administrators have access to your information and number. So how do we know that these administrators are responsible? So now I'd like to ask, since Globe is here, what are your best practices for the know your customers vetting? Do we have a representative?
Madam Chair, I'll refer you to Attorney Amora of GCAS.
GCash?
I think he's here.
Oh, you're here. I thought you were online. Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, honorable senators. Good afternoon to all the distinguished guests. I am Mark Anthony Amurao, and I am the representative of GCash. Your Honors, regarding our KYC process, we usually get the personal information of the applicants, like their names, and then we also ask for government IDs, Your Honors. And just recently, we're also implementing a facial recognition, Your Honors, regarding our KYC procedures, Your Honors.
Do you do this? Sorry, I don't have a GCash account. Precisely because I'm actually weary about this. So tell me how. Let's say I want to apply. How do I do it?
Your Honors, first you have to download the GCash app. And then you will input the information that we require, just the basic ones, the names. And then we will ask for an identification, which is government ID. And then the applicant will also go through Your Honor, wait, I'm sorry. And the applicants will also do a live selfie, Your Honors. So that's the basic KYC procedures for us to determine that the person applying for a GCash account is really the person. Yes, Your
Okay, because this could be a preview of how they register their SIM cards. On the other
Madam Chair?
hand, yes, Senator Nancy.
Hindi, question lang, paano kung fake yung ID?
Hindi, kaya nga, yun yung discussion natin dito with Secretary Uy. Have you actually encountered somebody who uploaded a fake identification? How do you verify?
Madam Chair, as of now, we have a mechanism in place. We have a team also that look into the ID submitted, Your Honors. Well, in fact, just recently, we have been able to determine 1.37 million fraudulent accounts, and we were able to block them with the help of government authorities. Also, that's aside from the numbers, aside from the ones that that our system were able to determine also as fraudulent accounts, Your Honors.
Pero marami kasi nagsasabi na yung information na ginagamit ng mga nagsascam, parang yung information na nasubmit sa GCash. Now, was there a recent breach in your operations?
Thank you for that question, Your Honor. I think what you were referring to, Your Honor, is that in our send feature, send the money feature in our GCash app, it enables any GCash user to send or transfer money to another GCash user. And before the person will be able to send, he or she must input the number of the GCash user. And then, prior to the actual sending, there will be a prompt or a preview showing the amount that will be sent, the number, And previously, the first name and the initial of the family name of the recipient, Your Honors. It's important to share with you that this is actually to allow our customers to verify their transactions for two purposes. First is for them, is to prevent any inadvertent sending of money to the wrong persons. And second, it's actually a fraud mechanism, fraud prevention mechanism. For example, we can easily identify if the person posing as a legitimate contact of the GCash sender is really that person, Your Honor. We are able to identify if the person is correct.
Madam Chair, just like to ask. Attorney, is it easier for someone who wants to enroll in GCash? Mas madali kung postpaid number, no? Or the same lang, prepaid or postpaid?
I have to confirm that, Your Honor. But as far as I know, it's...
I think it's easier kasi in line, it will be easier for you to identify pag postpaid, di ba? At least alam niyo registered yan, matagal na. Ang problema dyan, Madam Chair, it's not only ang problem dito, buti wala kayong GCash na, Madam Chair, but I think this one of the, it's a very good innovation, very convenient to pay bills, everything, utilities. Kaya lang, for politicians, it's a nightmare. Kasi dati, pag weekend o kaya holiday, sasabihin mo wala akong mautusan o kaya masama ang panahon. Pero ngayon, sir, i-GCash nyo na lang. Ang problema, hindi natin alam kung yung mga prepaid, madali rin sila maka-enroll, madali rin pumasok yung mga fraud, yung mga naloloko sa atin. Kasi SP MIGS, yung ibang naloloko sa ako, na-text din, i-GCash na lang daw. So, yun pong tanong ko kaya, probably it will be, if the GCash, dapat those will be enrolled, dapat yung mga postpaid na lang so that we can prevent yung mga fraudulent at yung pranksters, yung mga nanluloko.
Ay, sasabihin ko sa'yo, hindi sila papayag. Yan yung pinakamalaking market nila is postpaid I mean, prepaid, di ba?
Madam Chair, if I can also add to my statement a while ago, since you were asking if there was a breach. There was actually no breach of our systems. The infrastructure and the systems of GCash remains intact, and it wasn't compromised, which may lead to or result in any personal data breach.
I'd like to hear from your data protection officer. Ikaw yung technical, di ba? Hindi? Okay, kasi supposedly GCash changed their what did they change? Anong na-change na GCash?
Your Honors,
okay, so as of today, GCash started hiding the registered names. As of today. But what happens to the names already leaked? And what does GCash plan to do with that? Ngayon kasi tinatago na ninyo. Are you aware of that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor,
You see a flaw in that system. That's why you changed it.
Actually, Your Honors, we'd like to maintain our position that we have not violated any law or regulation when we provide the first name and initial name of our customers in preview in the Send Feature app, Your Honors. Your Honors,
I know you're a lawyer, so you're focused on the legal side. We're not saying you're violating anything by having that system in the past. But so you changed it now.
Yes.
Because admittedly, nagagamit na.
Yes. We changed it, Your Honors, because since we continuously reassess our processes. And even if there were no violations, it's only for the purpose of allaying the fears of our citizens that their names will no longer be scraped or harvested, Your Honors. Actually, Your Honors, we believe that it's still in its experimental phase. We won't know if it will be as effective as the purposes for which we show the names of the recipients, such as to prevent fraud and to prevent inadvertent sending to the wrong persons.
Okay, well, no, I'm glad to hear that it's true. I mean, for us, we have to keep innovating.
Yes,
we have
Your
to
Honor.
keep evaluating the systems that we have in place to further improve it, whether or not we're violating any laws. So
Yes, Your Honor.
I commend you for that. But my question now is this: how about the ones whose account has been compromised? So they contact GCash, and what do? You just change their account, right?
Your Honors, as of now, the ones with the initiatives of GCash on this is that we closely coordinate and cooperate with the National Privacy Commission and the other law enforcement agencies. And should we receive any complaints on harvesting of their names, we say, first of all, that any messages do not come from us and do not open the links such as that. And we also coordinate with the Globe regarding the blocking of the scammers' numbers, Your Honors. As to the extent of the leaked names, Your Honors, we are still investigating into the matter, and we have yet to determine the actual extent of the leak.
So you can actually, let's say I'm the client, I'm the consumer. My GCash account has been compromised. I can just apply for another GCash account and close that one, the one that's been compromised. Is that possible? What if you have the same cell phone number? So hindi rin, di ba?
Your Honors, let me confirm that with the
Kasi
pertinent
once
team.
that account is already out there, di ba, that's already in jeopardy of being used again for, so that's one. And then, I'm losing my train of thought. But maybe I would like to hear from
Madam Chair?
Yes, Senator Nancy.
Hindi, pwede doon lang sa GCash. Kasi kanina, attorney, nabanggit nyo na may nahuli kayo na gumamit ng fake IDs. Tama po ba?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you've blocked it.
Yes, Your
Correct.
Honor. It's part of the 1.37 million that we were able to block as fraudulent accounts, Your Honor.
And then have you submitted to any, nasubmit na ba ito sa NBI or sa PNP, itong 1.37 million? Kasi technically, na to, kumbaga, may crime na, di ba?
Your Honors, we have been collaborating with the law enforcement agencies in the arrest of fraudsters and even in the prosecution of their cases also, Your Honors.
Meron na prosecute?
Yes, Your Honors. So there are cases, there are already instances, Your Honors.
Madam Chair, baka we can ask NBI kung ano nangyari dito sa 1.37 million fraudulent accounts. Or ewan ko kung anong agency ba yung dapat assume. Kasi di ba yung telco hanggang pag-block lang sila eh. But yung actual, yung paghuhuli at saka yung pagpa-file.
I have yet to check, Madam, if the accounts, the numbers being mentioned by our counterpart from GCash was actually submitted to the Bureau. And we will be submitting our report on that. And if you may allow me to add to that, I would like to confirm the statement of Attorney Amurao about successful collaborations of the NBI and GCash. In fact, about 3 months ago, there was really this very interesting case where a SIM card user, a prepaid SIM card user was extorting money from a victim. So there was a demand for money, and eventually the victim went to the NBI to file a complaint. By guiding the complainant, we asked the complainant to deposit the money or send the money via Western Union because we have good working relationships with Western Union. But then apparently when we checked with Western Union, there was this feature wherein after the money is received by the recipient of the money, is actually transferred back to another account with GCash. And when it's transferred to GCash, the same number would transmit it to different GCash numbers as well. So with cooperation from GCash and Western Union, we were able to pinpoint and arrest the persons at the end of the line and eventually prosecute them.
No, that's quite commendable. I'm glad that you were able to do that. But I would like to ask the National Privacy Commission, because you were raising your hand earlier, is there possible violation by the telecommunications companies when it comes to the breach of privacy?
Yes, yes, Madam Chair. First, based on our investigation po, there's no leak or breach. I want to make the distinction between what I mentioned earlier about scraping or harvesting. That means the system, based on what we're seeing, the system of the payment applications or the messaging applications were not actually breached. Hindi po napasok at walang nakuhang information. Yung scraping is using or harvesting is using a method where in an automated manner, someone enters a number tas magpa-pop up yung dapat papadala nyo. So ganun po yung nangyayari. Hindi po nasira yung security systems nila para makakuha ng information. But that being said, there is an obligation on the part of our personal information controllers, those who control the processing of our information, to put in place appropriate security measures to ensure that the information that they're processing cannot be just taken easily. So kung nakikita na po, for example, on the part of these payment applications and messaging applications na may gantong unusual activity, kasi ang normal naman po, it's one account verifying if this is the name. But if it's now happening tens of thousands of times, that's no longer normal and that should have been flagged. So that's also what we're looking at. So if there's some negligence, I guess, in their implementation of certain security measures. So ganun po yung tinitingnan natin dito. Ano yung ginawa nila before at ano yung ginagawa nila after. At kung na-detect ba nila tong gantong klaseng unusual activities.
Okay, Senator Nancy, did you want to add something?
Madam Chair, gusto ko lang itanong kung bailable yung nahuli ba nila, bailable ba? Kasi baka nakalabas na ulit to at patuloy pa rin na.
Oo, for sure, bailable yun, di ba? Oo. Tanungin naman natin siguro yung, okay, before I forget, kasi this entered my mind na Attorney Cordova was saying that they sent out 3 text messages warning the consumer or the subscriber of these fraudulent activities. Pwede bang dalas-dalasan ninyo? Kung pwede, araw-araw, padala ninyo na huwag maniwala sa mga palaro o kaya sa mga trabaho na ino-offer galing sa numerong hindi ninyo kilala. At kahit nakilala ninyo, mag-ingat din kayo. But I think kaya naman yan ng mga telcos, di ba? Can't we do it while we don't have the SIM law yet? Or will it cost you so much?
Actually, we're following the NTC anti-spam circular. So we take our cue from the NTC on when to blast the
siguro
messages.
pagsipagan na lang po ninyo yung pagbibigay ng order na magpadala sila. Maybe
Madam Chair?
Yes, Senator Nancy.
Hindi, siguro another suggestion, baka aside from texting, baka kunwari pagbibili ka dun sa mga new subscribers, baka kailangan may kasamang leaflet na parang, pag nakatanggap kayo ng ganito. Kumbaga, old school way of informing the public aside from the text. Baka maganda na may ganong ding programa yung mga telcos.
Okay. I guess we can really talk about it. But while you're on the line, Senator Nancy, you were requesting maybe an executive session. I just wanted to let you know that this is the priority measure also of the body and the Senate President. We would like to adjourn this hearing. So maybe we can just ask if it's okay with you to meet with Attorney Uy or maybe ask a position paper from him that we can use as we craft our committee report. Kasi I have to report this out na by next week.
Okay, Madam Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this will be the next series. First, PNP, I want to know any reports of scamming that you may have caught And then I also want to talk to the DOJ kasi ito yung sa privacy and constitutionality, ganyan. I'd like to thank Converge also for being here. Kasi wala naman kayong mga SIM di ba?
None. We do not have a cellular service. We're only focused on fixed, the quality of our fixed service.
So,
yeah, but we're here to support any cybercrime prevention initiative.
That's right. That's why we just asked for you to come here. It will be a different topic for you later on. It's the number of subscribers that have grown and are trying to be accommodated by Converge. I guess you're having difficulty accommodating all of them. But
as of now, no. We have a lot of capacity in our network.
Okay.
So maybe if there's any other concern specifically that you want us to look into, please let me know. Yeah.
Okay, no, because ganito, let's say you have a Converge line. That's fixed. Wala kayo sa SIM. Okay.
Yes.
But thank you. I appreciate your presence here today. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
PNP, kwentuhan nyo kami kung ano na yung mga kaso na nakalap ninyo tungkol dito sa mga fraud na sa cellphone.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chair. Thank you very much po for inviting us. Ma'am, for the yung pong query kanina ni Senator Nancy Binay, when it comes to the possible sources where the scammers got hold of the numbers and personal identifiable information, kaya nagkakaroon tayo ng text. Possible is the mobile applications download. Some applications, once downloaded in our mobile phone, automatically po nagkakaroon sila ng access doon sa ating contacts and doon sa ating photos, camera, microphone, and GPS. Meron po doon And meron din po sa mga surveys natin like yung contact tracing form na pinipila pa natin. If not handled properly, may cause the leak of personal identifiable information. We have also the dark web. Ito po medyo malalim na po yung niya is cyber criminals have access in the dark web wherein they can buy or freely downloaded some personal identifiable information coming from compromised system that are being offered online. Meron po tayong compromised system network or yung credential wherein those that are process personal information is also one of the contributory. Meron po tayong messaging application. If someone will add a mobile number, katulad po nung binanggit kanina na automatic po isusupply niya yung data. Meron din po tayong money service provider na ganun din po once na pinasok mo yun is lalabas din yung data niya. And
Sir, okay. Binabanggit nyo lahat yan. Pero gusto ko malaman, yung cyber crime group ninyo, anong capability ninyo na mahuli sila? Anong meron kayo? May mga equipment ba kayo? May mga tao ba kayo na nag-iimbestiga niyan? May nag-report na ba sa inyo at nagawa ninyo ng solusyon?
Yes, ma'am. Meron po. Actually, ma'am, for the capabilities of our personnel, we have 4 fundamental trainings para sa personnel natin. We have the Introduction to Cybercrime Investigation course. We have the identification and seizure of digital evidence. We have the introduction to digital forensic and investigations. The proactive internet investigation course.
Ito na lang po. Kunyari ako ay biktima.
Yes, ma'am.
Pumunta ako sa... Paano ko kayo tatawagan?
Ma'am, meron po tayong isumbong, which is very, yung 4 na 8 lang po ang...
8888?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Opo.
So, pag meron kayong call center,
yes, ma'am.
na sasabihin,
sa PNP po yun, ma'am, diretso.
Tapos
po sa
i-refer
atin.
kayo sa cybercrime.
Yes, ma'am.
Ngayon, pagdating sa cybercrime, sir, meron pong nagte-text sa akin, ito po yung numero, tapos ganito. Paano niyo tutulungan yung tao na yon?
Yes, ma'am. We usually contact the complainant.
Okay.
And we request them to file a formal complaint, which is kailangan po yun sa pag-file ng kaso.
No, I understand.
Yes, ma'am. And katulad po na nabanggit kanina, kung GCash po yung involved, we have a close coordination with them. And we usually request or file the warrant to disclose computer data wherein they usually provide us all the information wherein meron din po kaming napafind out na peke po yung mga ID. Sometimes, 5 account, iisa po yung tao pero fake yung mga pangalan. So nakukuha po natin.
Meron ba kayong DOJ, yung PNP ba may pwedeng mag-issue ng subpoena?
Only the chief PNP, ma'am, ang pwede.
Pwede?
I think the Office of the Cybercrime po may be able to answer that. Our colleague is with.
Are you
is
able
online.
to?
Ma'am,
kasi kung pupunta kayo sa Globe, okay, ganito po yun eh. Dito sa batas natin, hindi pwedeng basta-basta makuha yung information unless merong court order or a government agency that can issue a subpoena. So, pag pumunta kayo sa kanila, makukuha ninyo yung impormasyon kaagad?
We have the warrant to disclose computer data, ma'am. We have to apply for that. But before that, ma'am, we usually send requests for the data preservation para at least, ma'am, may heads up na sila para in time for the release ng warrant to disclose computer data, nandun na po, ma'am, readily available.
Kasi alam ko yung the police, if there's a clear or an ongoing criminal activity, you can apprehend or you can have pursuit, no? Pero kung ganito, that's actually quite a gray area, no? To get the information from Globe for them to give it. This is something that we need to study, no? No, I mean, I hope that you can obtain the information. So, paano yun? Pumupunta kayo, kukunin nyo yung information from Globe, binibigay naman sa inyo?
Yes, ma'am. Basta meron po tayong warrant, ma'am.
Saan kayo kumukuha ng warrant?
We apply to the court, ma'am.
So, okay. So, that's clear. You have to go through the court. Mabilis naman kumuha ng warrant.
Depende rin po, ma'am, sa isa-submit nating...
Oh, no. Kunwari, it's really a valid, ano. It's something that you need to verify. It seems valid. How long does it take in your division, to apply for a warrant?
3 to 7 days po, ma'am.
Siguro there should really be a court dedicated to cyber fraud, no? Meron na ba?
Meron po, ma'am.
Meron? Court for cyber fraud? And it takes 3 to 7 days?
Cybercrime courts, ma'am, meron po tayo. I think the DOJ...
DOJ, do we have?
Sorry, ma'am, that's with the Supreme Court. We won't be able to answer that.
Okay.
Opo, kasi it's the National Prosecution Service po only assist in the prosecution and then the application of warrants.
Okay, the reason why I ask all these questions is that we're trying to make a workable IRR already, if possible, included in the law with room to grow because this is technology based. So we can't really be so strict as to the parameters because when technology changes, we have to be able to adapt easily. So when we craft the IRR, which hopefully we'll put already in the bill, right? Kasi pagka hindi, ang daming discretion ng mga ibang agencies, nagkakagulo lalo. We will craft it together with like a technical group, together with the DICT, the guidance of the NTC or the lack thereof, and then the telecommunications companies and the DOJ. DOJ, I guess before we close this hearing, I mean, unless Senator Nancy still wants to ask.
Madam Chair, tanong ko lang kay General Doria, yung nangyari kay Senate President Mig Zubiri, I think it was the CIDG ang tumulong. Tama ba?
Yes, sir.
Ano pong nangyari? Paano ginawa nyo? How you were able to apprehend yung pong nanloko kay SP?
Yes, sir. We provide usually, sir, technical assistance, but that case, sir, was handled by the CIDG, sir.
So, CIDG na ako.
Yes, sir, po, sir.
Yun ang namin kasi ang worry namin, a lot of our colleagues, meron silang data. So, pare-pareho yung modus operandi na nangyari. Yung humihingi, same name. So, yun ang inaan namin. Kaya we're asking kung merong CIDG or a report on the persons who were arrested?
Yes, sir. Actually, sir, may mga endorsed din po na mga complaint na the same po, sir. And our operatives usually coordinate with your office, sir, para doon sa specifics. And kailangan natin kasi, sir, yung complainant para sa pag-file natin, sir, ng warrants sa korte. Otherwise, sir, hindi po tayo i-grant doon sa mga request natin.
Okay, actually, nandito rin pala sa linya ang DTI. Kasi gusto ko malaman yung mga online raffle scams, online sellers. Ginagamit nila, may DTI permit, may ganito, ganyan. So, can you tell us about this? Director Valdez?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Chair, we have received complaints. I have data here. In 2020, we did not receive any complaints last 2020 on tech scams. However, in 2021, we have 63 complaints received. And for the first half of 2022, we have 19 complaints received on tech scams. However, our action here on tech scams is that we refer them to the NTC pursuant to a memorandum of agreement we executed with the NTC last 2015, Madam Chair.
Ay, parang black hole yan pagka nireport mo sa NTC. NTC, paano? Yung mga sinasabi sa inyo ng DTI, ng mga fake, yun ang binablock din ninyo?
Yes, ma'am. Kasama po.
Okay. Before I re-acknowledge the presence of Senator Estrada, I would like to ask the former NPC Commission, NPC Commissioner Liboro on illegitimate data brokers. Can you expound on this, sir?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you for bringing that up. I've spoken about data brokers and data aggregators. Data brokers and aggregators actually have dual personalities. They could operate legally and illegally. Siguro para po sa mga nakikinig po sa atin, sino-sino ba ito? No? Sa simpleng ito po ay yung mga data middlemen. Right? At sila po ay legally na nakakanegosyo ng ating mga telcos. These brokers exploit global vulnerabilities in mobile networks. And they can send SMS through regular legitimate business routes, which are called white routes, and illegitimate routes, which are called gray routes or black routes. Last year, data brokering was a $200 billion industry. And they project this industry to grow to $400 billion this year. There's nothing wrong with our industry players, telcos and stakeholders getting a piece of the pie for as long as they conduct business legally and follow our laws. Thus, it will really be interesting to know and understand from this hearing how our telcos are dealing with these data brokers, aggregators. In December last year, during the height of the fake job scam text spree, Globe Telecom revealed that they were able to source or to find the source of these texts from one of their data brokers, named Macro Kiosk, who was contracted by an entity named China Skyline Telecom, who also had a client that was based in India. So really, ito pong industry na ito, no? It's a legal industry, but there are misaligned players in this industry. And it's very interesting again. And, I've spoken about this, that probably one of the sources of this wholesale, large-scale supply of personalized information could be coming from data brokers or data aggregators or SMS aggregators.
Sir, you mentioned, I think, in one of your interviews that perhaps the leak is coming from the telcos themselves. Did you mention this?
Let me qualify the leak, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Because this could be coming legally from the telcos. All right, doon po sa mga nakikinig po sa atin, yung isa pong official po natin ng kapulisan, nag-enumerate saan ba maaaring manggaling yan. Lahat po tayo ay pumapasok o nag-download or nag-avail ng mga free applications. We enter free websites offering free services, pero hindi po yan actually free. Pag nag-consent po tayo, at nagtinik ho natin ng we agree, at pag binasa ho natin, at majority naman ho sa atin, hindi binabasa ito, at sinabi doon na nag-agree tayo for the sharing of our personal information for business intelligence, then we are actually giving a go signal, a license for these websites or for these aggregators to trade our personal information. So meron hong Madam Chair, may legal hong na hindi ho leak yan, maaari ho nilang i-justify yan legally. Now, let me just point lang ho yung sinasaksa immediately. Sinabi na hindi ho unlikely na hindi daw galing po sa data brokers itong nangyaring ito. Dahil wala pong sender, wala hong pangalan nga ng sender. Kasi dapat data broker, dapat nandun yung pangalan ng company. But you really now have to look into the real nature now of this business. This is a shady industry. Have you heard of names of Epsilon, Datalogics, Action, Intellius, Exactis? Companies you never heard about. You don't know about them, but they know something about you. Kasi nga po, yung mga data po na, yung mga pinag-consent ho natin, o mag-agree ho tayo sa mga cookies, yan ho, kinokolate po nila. Yung collection ho yan lang ho ang first part ho yan ng negosyong ito. The second part, the next part is what you call data mining. Really looking at the rich content that they can get. Third is profiling. They will start putting you in groups. And finally, they will sell your identity. Now, is it legal? Under our law, if you consented to them doing that, then it becomes legal.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for explaining that to us. Actually, yes, that our viewers should also understand that there are many ways to obtain information from us. Yun lang ang click the cookies, I agree to this and that. So, but Senator Nancy, you were wanting to say something?
Yes, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, ang ibig sabihin hubad nito, kasi di ba dun sa SIM card registration bill, ang hahawak ng data ay ang mga telco. Tama po ba? Madam Chair, di ba yun yung content ng bill? It will be the telcos
who will be taking care of
the data
our
keeper.
Yes.
But with the statement of Mr. Liboro, pwede ho ba na ibigay ng telco dito sa mga data aggregators yung information?
No, they cannot reveal that information without a court order. And if they sell that information, they will be in violation unless they notify the subscriber if they're interested to receive certain information.
But
Pero
I
hindi
think,
nila
Madam
pwede-
Chair, di ba at the moment, pag subscriber ka, and without your knowledge, without knowing it, you've checked niya yung consent. Kasi di ba yung nakakakuha tayo ng text from Globe or from Smart, I think nabigay na nila yung data natin dun sa third-party aggregator sila. It's not the telco itself who's sending us those texts, but a third party. Tama po ba? Am I correct?
Let's
Mr.
ask
Liboro?
Globe and Smart, have you sold our information to
Or not necessarily
a third
sold,
party?
Madam Chairperson,
No, Madam
but
Chair.
Madam Chair. Madam
who's
Chair.
speaking?
Mr.
Mr.
Roy
Ibay,
po
who
from
are you,
Smart.
who are
Yes,
you
ma'am.
with?
With Smart Communications po.
Okay, go ahead.
Ma'am, we would also like to ask po the clarification with regard to the social media. I think this is relevant in the light of what former NPC Commissioner Liboro mentioned, because we all know that social media providers really collect so much personal information, and sometimes it is not within the knowledge already of the data subject or those who join social media networks to what extent their personal data is being shared. So we would just like to clarify the provision in the proposed bill where aside from the SIM registration, there will be a social media account registration. And we just like to reiterate that on this, the onus shouldn't be on the part of the telcos to register their SIM registration, their SIM coupled with the social media account that they wish to register po.
Madam Chair, but at the moment, di ba, Mr. Ibay, pag if you're a subscriber at nakakatanggap ka ng mga promo from the telcos, hindi ba third party na yung nagsisend neto and not the telco itself?
Depende po yun. Bale, meron po kasing whitelist na tinatawag po ang mga telcos where the subscribers allow themselves to receive promos. And then there are also SMS messages which are technically allowed by the NTC under current NTC text spam rules, meaning if these are for public service, if these are for disasters, if these are for upgrade of equipments and all that, network quality, then kasama rin po yun na pwede po nang ipadala po ng telco. So usually
internal ho ba, may nahuli na kayo na data aggregators na kumbaga ginagamit na nila yung data na binigay nyo sa kanila for other uses aside from dun sa promo ng telco itself?
Well, there have been instances where our aggregators themselves have reported that they have experienced some sort of breach, where their clients supposedly are in violation of the rules that were provided them. So
may aggregator pala din talaga sila, kayo?
Meron po talagang ganong service po na ino-offer po yung mga telcos, and we have really we have monitored po since last year, since noon pong nasa NPC pa si Commissioner Liboro. I think he started the probe on the aggregators po that time, no? But I think,
so who are you dealing with? Who are you giving our information to, basically?
Ay, hindi po kami. Basically po, yun pong mga aggregators po, they have clients din po kasi, and there are strict rules po that should be followed. And yun nga po, basically may mga occasions po talaga in the past, before the stricter and before our CISO has implemented this technology that monitors all this phishing via aggregators. Meron pong mga instances po talaga na yung mga kliyente po ng mga aggregators namin nagkakaroon po ng breach din po on their side.
Okay. I would like to ask, the only telco company that is against this is Dito Telco, because they feel that registering the SIM card might be too difficult for them to comply with because of the deluge of registrants. So Dito, what is your position now? Is it still the same? You're still against the registration of SIM cards?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor. On our part, we are supportive now of the SIM Registration Act. We do believe that it will help in the eradication of these text scams. Also, it is not a silver bullet, as they say. There is still going to be a lot of work ahead, but we, to put it simply, we do here at Dito are supportive of the SIM Registration Act.
Okay, I know it's going to be what the process is for actually registering your SIM card. That will be in a technical working group because in the meantime that we don't have the national ID, that will be an issue. Now, I want to bring up something that's crucial to this discussion. There are several versions of the bill, okay? Some bills mention social media And some bills just mention SIM registration. Now, as you know, unfortunately, this bill was vetoed the last time because apparently it might be a transgression on the freedom of expression by including social media. On the other hand, as I mentioned at the beginning of this hearing, freedom of expression is not absolute. If it's already libelous, if it's pornographic, if it's a terrorist activity, this is not protected by that enshrined freedom of expression. Now, the DOJ, you're present here today. When it's very easy. All we have to do is take out the statement that says social media and just say the registration of SIM. But it will still cover any transaction using the SIM card. Diba? So, kung meron kang account, social media account, it is activated by your cell phone number, you're covered. Am I correct? The NBI is nodding their head.
You're right with that statement. Sa pulpo lahat eh. Kasi in the first place, when we talk about internet connections now, marami na masyado ang gumagamit ng phones. And obviously, phones are actually the use of phones would entail the need for a SIM card. So when you do investigations, and eventually we're talking about securing log reports from the telcos or the ISPs, somehow the log reports would be able to pinpoint eventually to a SIM card and eventually to a prepaid number. Now, if a number is actually registered with the NTC, we still are able to achieve the same objective of identifying them. So tama po yung kahit walang social media registration, as long as we will be able to register SIM cards, we will arrive at the same results.
Okay. Kasi DOJ, what is your position?
Opo. Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. At the outset, we'd like to mention that we will submit a position paper on this. But the Department of Justice is fully supportive of the SIM card registration bills. In fact, Madam Chair, the DOJ was very active in the 18th Congress in the discussion on the SIM card registration bills. And it was unfortunate that the enrolled bill was vetoed. So in our present position, we maintain our support for the SIM card registration, except that we point out that there's a Senate bill among the six proposed bills which contain the social media accounts registration. So it is our position, Madam Chair, that the committee may wish to reconsider the inclusion of this rider in light of a possible constitutional violation with respect to Section 26, Article 6 of the Constitution on one title, one subject per law. Sorry. Every bill passed by Congress shall embrace only one subject. So apart from this, we also are concerned about possible violation of the freedom of expression in terms of subsequent punishment if the subscribers will provide their real name or their information, and that would later on be traced to them if ever they make
okay, so
comments.
Basically what you're saying is you are in support of this bill as long as we just mention SIM.
Madam Chair, we are supportive of the SIM card registration bills, but we are open to discussing further social media accounts, but it is not present in the proposed the bills as proposed. We're not closing. We're not saying that we will not support, but we are open to further discussion on this.
Well, but as it stands now, if you use your phone anyway and your SIM to register, you're covered by this. You have to give your information. Well, the way to go around that is you just have to use your email. Don't use your phone if you're really very concerned about your... Kasi ito naman, the way this law is written, it's content neutral. It's not that, it's really the actions that you do, if there anything illegal. But anyway, Attorney Cordoba.
Ma'am, we support the position of the Department of Justice. because the part regarding the social media may be considered a rider in the bill. Secondly, I think yung pong social media na there should be a separate law for that because it's really mas malalim po yung kailangan gawin na.
Well, that's why this is also the position of the group. Maybe when it comes to the social media practices, that would be on the Committee on Public Information. Hindi na sa akin yun. Hindi na sa atin yun sa public services. Hindi man natin sila binibigyan ng franchise. Hindi na naman natin sila nire-regulate, di ba? So, doon na yan sa public information kay Senator Robin. But in this case, SIM lang tayo. SIM registration. Yes?
Ma'am, an additional observation. Maybe po better not to use the term card anymore because it's possible to have a SIM that is embedded on a phone. It's also possible to have a cloud SIM. So, the physical SIM po kasi in the future may not be ano na po ulit.
That's a very good suggestion.
Better to call it SIM na lang po.
Something from the NTC now. Yeah. Thank you. Redeeming yourself bago tayo mag-adjourn na. Thank you. Senator Estrada, would you like to ask something?
Thank
or
you.
If you have an opening that you need to give.
I will not bother to read my opening statement anymore because I'm so sleepy and hungry.
Me too.
And I would like to propound questions to the NBI. Mr. Malyari, gano'n ba kalala yung problema natin sa text scams?
Salamat po sa question na yan. Let me repeat my earlier statement that in the year 2001, when we were with the Anti-Fraud and Computer Crimes Division, we were already talking about text scams involving yung mga PCSO, DTI, etc., etc. Sabi ko noon, binanggit na namin that eventually these types of crimes would evolve and mutate to different schemes or different versions. Ngayon nga po, nangyayari na po siya. 20 years since the time that we started speaking about this types of future crimes, nangyayari na po siya. Mas malala. But ang pinupunto po namin dito, kanina pa, is that ang intention, apart from identifying, is to be able to locate and eventually file a case against a certain offender. But we wouldn't be able to do that kung hindi natin alam yung pangalan ng gumamit ng SIM card. Yun po yung sinasabi natin po.
So ano magiging problema? Paano nyo matitrace?
Ganito po yan eh. Say for example, ipupurso natin yung angulo talaga ng prepaid SIM cards. For us to be able to secure that, we will have to communicate with the telco. Sabihin natin kay telco, this particular number was actually used in committing a crime. And then the telco would reply to us saying that, in as much as we want to share to you the information, unfortunately, yung number po na ito, prepaid po siya. Walang available na information on that particular SIM. So hindi po minsan kami umi-stop, lalo na kung masyadong serious yung kaso. What we do is that, nanghihingi po kami ng information apart from the subscriber information which is not available. Humihingi po kami ng IMEI, IMSI, TMSI, call data records, text data records, hoping that the SIM card was actually used in communicating with other postpaid subscribers. And eventually, pag nakuha po namin yung data, we will do a process of eco-cross analysis po namin yan. Pag meron kami nakita na at one time the prepaid SIM card communicated with a postpaid subscriber, sasabihin namin kay telco, total postpaid pala ito. Say for example, the date of the transaction is June 12, 2019 o 2022. Sasabihin namin, sino po ang tao na merong postpaid number na ito? Ibibigay po sa amin ni telco, yung tao naman yun ang aming kakausapin. Sabihin namin, on June 19, 2022, you sent a text message to this number. Pwede bang paka-identify mo kung sino ito? So nangyayari po yan. Ang ibig po lang namin sabihin, bagamat prepaid SIM card, minsan po hindi humihinto, tinutuloy pa rin namin kung available. However, yung pong facility na yan, possible lang if the prepaid SIM card was used to communicate via text or via call to a number na postpaid. Pero kung hindi, yung binabanggit po natin kanina, yung iba kasi bibilin lang, gagamitin for a specific purpose, and then itatapon na po. Kapag ganun, blank wall na po talaga yan.
Well, if you have read my privilege speech or even browsed it, there are a number of senators who have already been victimized by these text scams. One of them is this representation. Maraming nagte-text sa akin. Although, itong telephone number, itong cellphone ko, itong telepono ko, hindi naman nakaregister sa pangalan ko. Hindi ko malaman kung paano nila na-trace yung aking numero sa cellphone. Marami nagpapanggap ng mga local officials, especially mga board members, mga governors, sila yun humihingi ng financial assistance. At in fact, I was not yet, that was immediately after the May 9 national and local elections, so hindi pa ako nakakaupo. But I already won during this last election. Kasi mo, I did not have the capacity to verify these telephone numbers. So I think isa sa mga nabiktima ron was Senator Nancy Binay na nakapagbigay din ng a substantial amount dun sa nagpapanggap na board member o governor. At ako rin nakapagbigay din sa katangahan siguro. Nakapagbigay din tayo through their GCash account. So fortunately, nireport ko yun sa police force, sa CIDG, at nahuli na rin yung tao na nabigyan ko ng tulong. So I think it is in the custody of the CIDG. No? At I think sindikato yan eh. Mukhang sindikato at maraming malaki yung kanilang network. So I would like to commend the CIDG, the police force, the Philippine National Police for acting swiftly on my request. Pero siguro, kailangan siguro natin paigtingin palalo yung mga investigasyon tungkol dito sa mga text scams nito.
Thank you. Matanong ko nga, kung alam ito ng NBI or whoever can answer my question, can somebody mirror your number? Kasi minsan sinasabi, lumalabas yung number na ikaw yung tumatawag, pero hindi naman ikaw. Is there a technology na gano'n na? Yung lumalabas, number mo, pero ibang gumagamit ng number mo?
Madam Chair, there's actually an old technology existing with regards to that. Matagal lang ginagamit yan.
Sa ganon?
Well, one of the things that's very common is SIM card cloning. The other one is online, it's an anonymizer. It's computer-based. It's a facility. Example, yung number ni Senator Jinggoy, madadalang ka ng message pero hindi siya yun.
So,
tao yun.
So nagagawa talaga yun?
Yes.
Nangyayari?
Yes.
Yes.
Paano nangyayari yun? Turuan mo nga ako.
So nangyayari yon, nakukuha yung number mo, tapos gagamitin ang number mo para akala nung nakakatanggap, ikaw yung nag-text.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a computer-based.
Marunong ka ba gumawa ng Yusek?
Ay, di ho.
Sino marunong? Mga telco?
NBI, kunyari meron kayong equipment, halimbawa, merong number na ginagamit na kailangan i-trace kung nasaan ang tao na yon, kung active yung number. Meron ba kayo?
Magandang question po yan, Madam. Kaya naman po, laging humihingi ng tulong ang NBI sa Kongreso para mabigyan kami ng budget para makabili ng equipment. Unfortunately, wala po kaming ganyan. For purposes of pinpointing the exact location of a number, we seek the assistance of the telco.
So the telco has it?
On official investigations po.
Okay. Kayo wala, ha?
Wala po, ma'am.
For sure wala ang NTC, right? Meron?
Sa executive session na lang po, ma'am, if ever.
Okay, executives. So meron. Hindi, wala. PNP, meron kayo?
Wala po yung PNPs. Pagdating po
Wala.
dyan.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, pagdating sa budget, maybe pwede kayo mag-propose. Mga magkano ba yon?
Mahal po, ma'am. And at the same time, depende po yan sa capabilities. Yung binabanggit po kanina ni Yusek Ramos, Yusek Ramos, ang tawag po ng mga syndicates dyan, man-in-the-middle operation, wherein a specialized equipment would function as its own cell site, thereby assigning a TMSI on a communication to make it appear that he is actually a cell site. In the process, from this equipment to the intended beneficiary of the text message, pwede niyang ilagay yung kanyang number to make it appear that somebody else or a real person is actually texting or sending the message. Pero special equipment po yan. In the past, when I was chief of the NBI Technical Intelligence Division, there were vendors, mostly from abroad, which proposed this types of equipment. Kaya lang po unang-una by reason of the money or the budget involved na wala ang NBI and yung pong issues on privacy, hindi po nagmamaterialize po ito.
Okay. I think right now, we're in agreement that we need some measures to protect our citizens. And since it's already pervasive, these scams, I think that there should really be some sort of accountability by way of the registration of SIMs. I think we're all in agreement. Wala naman kontra dito, di ba? Against the registration of the SIM. Wala. Okay, and you know what? I'd like to make mention, I appreciate the patience of the Secretary for staying from start to finish and joining our discussion. And again, I'm happy that you've been appointed. Congratulations. And also to the NBI, very knowledgeable. And I sense your passion in your work. I hope that we can work closely as we draft the IRR. I mean, not draft, but include it already in the law with some flexibility. Thank you to all our guests, Globe and Smart, DOJ, PNP, GCash, Paymaya, wala dito, no? Walang complaint yata sa kanila, no? Wala pa. Okay. As always, Attorney Cordova, thank you. And Mr. Cabarrios, I hope you are enjoying your retirement. And sometimes, please do join us still. And I'd like to thank here my kinakapatid. Thank you for joining us, Senator Jinggoy.
The better one.
Vice Chair. Okay, this hearing, Senator Nancy, thank you also for joining us. Senator Bongo, and all the others who were. This hearing is now adjourned. Thank you.